Kia ora e te whānau, and welcome to the Institute of Building. Today we have Industry Insights with Jason Howden.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So my name is Pamela Bell, and I'm the Chief Executive here at the Institute of Building. And you have 45 minutes with us now, which is fabulous. And also, with your phones and Slido, the number will be on the screen. So pop your questions in, or if you're feeling a bit shy, just go to slido.com, pop the number in and boost everyone else's questions. We've got some starters in there. So Industry Insights is our webinar series, and you might be listening to this live today in April 2023, or you may be listening to a recording which in your own leisure, on your way to work, in a commute, with friends during a lunch break, on a walk, hopefully in nature. So we really are glad that you can join us. Now, a little bit time bound here is the New Zealand Institute of Building has a national awards program. It's called the New Zealand Building People Awards, and this year we are celebrating our wonderful people in the construction industry at Te Pai in Christchurch, Ōtautahi, August 18th. So we hope that you can join us, but most importantly, we hope you can nominate either yourself or your friends and colleagues for an award to celebrate all the fantastic people and best practice in our industry. So jump onto our website at the NZIOB.org.nz and nominate someone before the end of April. 1st of May is the closing date. Now, Jason, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Well, I'm a principal at Warren and Mahoney and Digital Innovation Lead. I came to Warren and Mahoney way back in 2014 as part of the Christchurch rebuild, and noting that the awards are at Te Pai, that was one of our first BIM projects with Warren and Mahoney. So when people are attending the awards, just note that that was a BIM project, and we used BIM to bring that project together.
We might have to turn up and remind us.
I might have to do that. And what a fantastic project that was, particularly in its time, and I guess the formation of digital collaboration in New Zealand around a national BIM handbook and all of the energy that was culminating together with the Christchurch rebuild. I joined Warren and Mahoney to lead Warren and Mahoney's I guess, transition from 2D CAD, the way we've always done things for a very long time, into the modern era of the way we now do things, which is just so empowering. And I'm delighted to be here today to kind of dip into some of this with you and talk about BIM and talk about what might be around the corner, because it's coming very fast.
Nice. So what I'm hearing is we're going to get the best of the last decade of your work and some insight into where you see things happening in the future, and potentially some tips for folks who are tuning in about how they can apply these learnings in their own work. So the first topic we've got to chat about, and we have 5 topics, which is our Industry Insights format. The first topic is around how we embrace BIM, Building Information Modelling, and AI, Artificial Intelligence, the BUZZ acronym of the day,
it is very buzzy today.
Construction organisations.
Yes, yeah, well, I think let's start with BIM, and I think starting with BIM is quite important, but it comes from 2 folds. One is a people-centric thing, and the people-centric bit must go first because it's about collaboration. It's about bringing people together to realise a project. The second really important component of BIM is the bit that's in the middle of BIM, is that information piece, and it's a nice segue into the artificial intelligence piece, and we'll talk a bit more about that later, but really embracing BIM within your organisation, whether you're a plumber, a contractor, designer, mechanical engineer, etc. It's just really about leaning into those that you partner with and collaborate with and sharing information. At its simplest form, we are really just sharing information, and the more frequently we share information, the more resilient our projects are, and the more chance of reducing rework kind of elevates. So it becomes this kind of exponential layering of sharing information. And then, you know, as you start to embrace it, you can then start to layer on new processes, things like clash detection. You know, wouldn't it be fabulous if we could prototype a building before we go and build it digitally, so we can find all those errors that we've traditionally solved on site when we've been standing around in a little huddle maybe in the rain with our gumboots. We can do it from the safety and the comfort of our air-conditioned office with that amazing waterfront view, and solve it on our iPads. And I think that's that transition that I've experienced over my career. When I started 30 years ago, I was on drawing boards with ink pens. If those on the call remember what ink pens are like. And today I can now load up some of the largest, most significant projects in the country from my mobile phone.
Awesome. So you can bring
Mind-blowing.
the site into the office and the office into the site,
Right.
and vice versa.
And vice versa.
It's absolutely a communication tool. And I love that we talk about embracing them.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about what that actually means? Does it mean just don't be so scared of it, be curious about it, ask for it, demand it, mandate it, contract? I mean, where do you see the embracing?
I like your choice of words there, because the key one that I latch on to is just be curious. Shouldn't be scared with any of this. The technology is here to assist us. It's not here to replace us. And it's here to empower us. And the work that we do, is quite special because it's all related to who we are as people. And that's really important. And you know, the first step is just leaning into people that might be using it, asking them just, hey, can you show me what that is? Or, hey, what's that QR code on that column over there? How do I access that? What's that all about? And then taking those kind of little steps and then layering those with a few more steps. Think of it as a marathon, not a sprint. You don't need to know it all on day one. And in fact, the industry is so large and projects are so complex. And there's so many players and stakeholders with detailed information that it's really hard to just know it all.
So complexity is a really good one. So curiosity is a great way to be around the construction site, an office, around how we're going to use more digital tools. But complexity, reducing complexity, all being on the same page, all having access to the same information at the end of those QR codes. I mean, essentially, is this about one BIM model to rule them all?
No, it's not about one to rule them all. And I'm going to quote one of my colleagues.
The source of truth.
We've invented a lot of phrases and acronyms over the years. Some I like, some I use, some I dislike, and some I don't use. But I'm going to quote one of my colleagues, Daryl Haynes, at Warren and Mahoney down in Christchurch. It's complexity made simply. And I think that's where BIM really delivers at home to everybody. If you can deliver the information to the stakeholders simply, and it's the information they need to make a decision or carry out a task, whether it be in the design office or on a construction site, we're all winning.
Awesome. Now, I don't think there's a single person out there who wouldn't disagree that our lives are too complex, we have too much information, especially when it comes to delivering construction projects, and that we want everything to be a little bit more simple. I know we're going to dig into how to get started in a minute. But first of all, tell us a little bit more about AI and the buzz around AI.
Oh, yeah, it's a real buzz right now. I've written board reports over the years for several organizations, and AI has been talked about for a long, long time. It's the stuff of movies. We've all seen Terminator, we've all seen Star Trek before that. Whether we know what the future vision is predicted by from Hollywood, I don't think any of us woke up in December 2022 and thought it would be here today. I think some in the palm of our hands. I can confidently say that I've dipped into that rabbit hole deep, and I've brought some of my colleagues along the journey with me, the ones that are brave enough to go down the rabbit hole.
Are we talking about ChatGPT?
ChatGPT, Midjourney, there's several for images, Adobe Firefly for videos, Hyper, which is a BIM authoring tool. They have text to BIM now, and you can just describe your office building in text, and it builds it as a three-dimensional model on the fly.
Wow, my kids do their homework just by talking to their computers. So you're saying we could design our buildings this way?
Yes, yeah. So it's coming, and it's coming exponentially fast. So it's very hard to predict where we'll be in the future, even just a few months ahead now, let alone a few years ahead. I think what we can take comfort in is the tools are coming to enhance what we do.
Hmm.
And I think leaning into that allows us to enhance our daily lives. I'm writing emails supported by ChatGPT now. I first put my hand up. I have a family trait that runs throughout the boys in my family. We're all dyslexic, we're all on the spectrum. That gives us superpowers. ChatGPT has fixed all those problems. And I can suggest to the large language model, this is what I've written. Can you suggest some improvements so I learn? But then I can just ask it to rewrite what I've written based on its suggestions. It's brilliant. Why wouldn't you lean into it?
Yeah, so I can talk rather than type.
Yeah.
And this is really relevant in the construction sector because we've got a large proportion of dyslexic and different reading and writing abilities. We're absolutely communicators.
Yep.
So ChatGPT or AI solutions will help us.
In the palm of your hand will help us all, and being able to communicate to different stakeholder groups in their language around a common problem, the project is key to solving all of these issues with less friction. Often what I've seen in the past is we've all been trying to do the best for the project and our client, but we've come at it from the opposite sides of the same coin, and that creates a little bit of tension. But when you understand that we're actually all speaking or rowing in the same boat, you can then start to row together.
Awesome. And I know I'm starting to think about AI as a little bit like a super Google, or a way to find more, better, in-depth information. And obviously there's that creation aspect to it. What happens beyond design? Because it's more than just finding a bathroom design or creating the design. What happens next? So I'm aware a huge amount of our membership is in the delivery of the design. So construction managers, site managers, project managers, cost managers.
I can start to see a world opening up where the digital information becomes interconnected with the supply chain. Everything these days has a barcode on it, and that barcode lives in a database somewhere. I can see in the foreseeable future that the information models that we're producing will be able to be searched with the assistance of AI tools to understand what the geometric shape is and the metadata, the descriptions that might be attached to it, and do that human thing that we do currently. We look at the shape and go, it looks like a chair, must be a chair. And then we look at the description and it might say black chair with casters, and we know it's kind of probably leaning towards an office chair. I think this is where this big data really starts to open up and then starts to connect those objects with external databases that might assist with procurement and streamlining procurement pathways, where often there's been a lot of effort put in to align things in vast quantities of spreadsheets, only to have a simple mistake roll through undetected because buildings are infinitely complex with many, many moving parts coming together, and you only need one Excel cell to be cut and paste 100,000 times. That's a big problem.
You're absolutely right. I think some of that stuff you touched on about the supply chain and how we track objects through their journey from manufacture to ourselves was touched on by Amy Marks also when she spoke at Building a Digital Community. Yes, she gave I think it was the Domino's example of the pizza and how we track that. Yeah, we don't track $500,000 kit in the construction
industry. And more importantly, there are a lot of the projects I work on have contingencies built into them. They have known kind of waste quantities built into them. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could predict some of that and refine that, so we're not building that in, we're building it out, and that becomes possibly a bonus or something that could be delivered to project teams in the success of delivering a more streamlined project.
Reducing waste.
Yeah, reducing waste, minimizing our carbon footprints, and
so
rewarding people with the financial aspect, because let's not forget the industry and the world runs on it.
Absolutely. And I think that was also another point that Amy made, which is about part of our industry's kind of 40% of landfill waste issue is that it tracks back to digital waste. If we can eliminate it at the digital phase, then we'll eliminate it at site. And for folks who are interested, Amy's presentation is on our website under the
Queen of Prefab, I thought her name.
Yes, Amy Marks, she's from Autodesk in the USA. Hey, after all this, I think some of us are wondering exactly if we're in that Back to the Future hot seat. Are we excited or are we just completely freaked out?
I'm just hyper excited. That's how I would describe it. This is a culmination of decades of dreaming and forecasting what the future industry would be like and wondering if I would be alive when it arrived. Holy smoke, I'm alive, it's happening, it's real, like, get excited. It's pretty cool. But at the same time, I feel and sympathize with business leaders and owners and practitioners who have got lots of experience and might be going, well, this is just happening a wee bit quick for me. And I think there are some guardrails starting to emerge with how we embrace particularly AI and how we onboard it, and some of the the rules and regulations that might emerge in this space to guide us, so it doesn't become a tool that's used in a bad way.
Okay, so in terms of being excited or afraid and its accessibility to different size organisations, how are our SMEs, our single contractors, sole traders going to be using this type of technology?
Really interesting question, because I suspect, and much like my two children, they're already using it. Without knowing it.
Right.
So, it may be as simple that, one day the emails that you were getting through from your team suddenly got better. Maybe they're using the AI and you just didn't know about it. So I would encourage people to take the small steps. Don't have to jump in the deep end. You don't have to go down the rabbit hole, but dip your toe and just explore what it might mean for rewriting an email, rewriting some internal comms. My emails. Well,
and has anyone noticed?
No one's noticed. Oh, actually, I have received commentary that I've been writing really good emails.
No.
So maybe people have noticed. And it does extend across all facets. I think what I like so much about the large language model is language is at the basis of knowledge.
What do you mean a large language model?
So a large language model is the database or the algorithms behind ChatGPT. It's built on information that's been scraped from the internet. So essentially all current human knowledge is on the internet. It's scraped all of that up.
Mostly to be trusted
or not. And that's part of the ethical prompting of the AI when you ask questions of it. If you ask good questions, you'll get good answers. If you ask those kind of not good questions, you'll get not good answers.
Is this a new skill area? We need to learn to ask good questions.
Good question, because yes, it is. And 2 months ago, I sent a text to my boys. I was like, hey boys, perfect job for you, prompt engineer, 300 grand a year in the US. Like,
okay,
that's better than speaking the street.
Yes, how to ask good questions.
How to be
curious.
How to be curious.
Yeah, perfect. I think this is fascinating because this gives us all a way in. Because our construction industry is a relationship-driven industry, communication-driven industry. All of us can benefit from communicating better, from writing better emails. So there's really no reason not to be engaging with something like
be curious. Just be curious. And one of the things I love about the large language model algorithms is you can prompt it in the context of a third person. So if I was curious about refining my bid for a plumbing contractor, I might go, as a plumber, list the top 5 things that I would need in an RFP for a construction project, and I would list them out.
Correct.
And then I could add to that prompt, using the above 5 prompts, write me a brief for engaging a plumber, and it would suggest a brief. And it's scraped all of that knowledge from all of the internet. So on the internet, there are samples of bids, there are samples of not good bids, and all of the kind of IP that the world has created since kind of the internet emerged, which is a vast quantity of knowledge.
So are we just going to see this becoming every day through search technology, through Google, where it's just going to become AI enhanced or enabled? And so this will just be simply the way we develop questions and develop content. Yeah.
And I think eventually we just won't tell the difference between whether it was an AI assisted or enhanced, but we'll forget the conversation. How many talk about I spell check stuff in Word? Nobody talks about that. You just kind of expect it. And
Yeah.
I say that because I did a parent-teacher interview with my youngest child who is has abilities right around on the spectrum, and he's a very high dyslexic nature. And his English teacher said, "You're amazing." I was like, "Whoa, he's like can't string a couple of words together that are spelt right." But he was referring to his creative, inquisitive mind and the stories he was telling. He could still read what he was writing. These tools just help communicate better so you don't get hung up on whether the word's spelled right or wrong.
Nice. So we can really get to the nitty-gritty, to the concepts and the good stuff. I think one of our questions is around timeframes. You said you're surprised and delighted and surprised to find that we're using this technology in our lifetimes. Can you comment any more about what you think might be just around the corner, or wouldn't it be amazing if? I mean, how fast is all this going to change?
This is moving very fast. I recently wrote a board report for the executive at Warren and Mahoney, where I said, you know, by the end of the decade, it was by the end of last year, it's already here. It's taken us all by surprise. We knew it was coming. We knew it would come fast. I don't think anyone predicted how fast it would come, and the take up has taken everyone by surprise. It's blitzed every world record in terms of technology take up. 100 million people in kind of the first week.
Wow. And is this because we're releasing things before they're perfect? Because we've got this more iterative or minimum viable product MVP release cycle?
I think it's a combination of being teased for so long with Hollywood and showing these glimpses of future worlds where things are just so integrated, and then having tools like an iPhone. Everybody has an iPhone and it's a supercomputer in our pocket, and we're sending text messages. And I think there's this kind of tension between, hey, wouldn't it be so cool if the phone just knew who was in the room, so I didn't have to be the person that was kind of making excuses because I forgot their name.
Right,
and you could just look at your phone and it just knew that there's Bill over there, and you can say, "Hey, Bill," and you can feel like you're that empowered person, and you've got this amazing memory to remember people's names, faces, places.
Yes. How far between the platform and the chip? Which makes me think, what could go wrong? What are our risks here? What do we need to be aware of, be cynical about?
Well, there was a post on LinkedIn today. I forget the person who wrote it, but it was someone from the Green Building Council, and they were talking about how the AI had just made up references.
That was Sam Archer. We had him on Industry Insights a couple of months ago.
Yes. So, yeah, and I think this is the why I feel confident that we're not replacing people. People are still required because we are the intelligent component on this planet at this point in time.
So we need to question it.
We need to question it. Absolutely. It's just like a really clever spreadsheet. If the formula has a basic fundamental error in it, the tool is not going to tell anyone. It's
rubbish
the people,
in, rubbish
out. And this is a tool that is infinitely scalable, infinitely powerful. So, you know, the rubbish out component of it could be infinite, but at the same point, you know, the quality that goes in and the quality that comes out could be infinite too. So with great power comes great responsibility, and that responsibility rests on the shoulders of the people.
Yes. So we're going to have to be much better at asking questions, being curious, and much better at filtering results.
Yes.
So being highly attuned to deepfakes, alternative looking imagery.
And it's probably that simple statement that we've said for years: if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't true.
No such thing as a free lunch.
Yep.
All that good stuff. Hey, I've just noticed a couple of questions come through on Slido, Jason, that I was really keen to ask you about. Someone is asking about an acronym that I don't know, that I trust you do in this industry, another 3-letter acronym, BEPs. Can you
BIM execution plans.
Thank you. Can you talk about BIM execution plans in the design phase and how to get the consultants to all agree on it.
Yes.
What does the magic bond look
What
like?
is the magic bond? Best done around a table, and that's that people to people relationship building component. Of all of the BIM execution plans I've written and nurtured through to agreement, it's around sharing experience, knowledge with third parties who may be coming from a different viewpoint and being can't think of the right word, but just leaning into their perspective and then educating them on your perspective so you can move forward with a common goal and purpose. A BIM execution plan by design is there to capture the agreed collaboration or the rules of the game, as I would say. BIM in the construction space, I've often used the analogy of rugby. Everyone in New Zealand loves rugby. We know it inside and out. It's a game of two halves, and construction is design and construction. And we change sides as we go on this journey as well. That responsibility the design team have in the design phase rests on their shoulders, and then kind of at halftime we share information, and then that responsibility transfers. And the design team who were responsible are now observing, and the contractors who might have been observing design through an ECI process are now responsible. So we really do need to have that rule book in place, an execution plan that guides the team and the two teams in playing a good, fair game.
Okay. And is this a contractual handover point?
It can be.
It can be.
But
yes.
the challenges
How
are
else do we recognise this?
the challenges are real with a BIM execution plan. By design, a BIM execution plan should be a living, evolving, innovative document. Contracts are points in time and static and frozen and fixed deliverables. So there's a balance between fixing things in points in time and agreeing endpoint deliverables for a future time, and then fostering collaboration built on technology that's infinitely evolving. The last thing any project team would want is to be locked into a technology that's replaced and using inefficient processes when there's a new technology that might empower the team to achieve the deliverables more efficiently.
So let's talk about longevity. The game of two halves, design build, has a third piece.
Yeah, what do you do when you get back to the locker room?
Well, the facilities management, let's think about it like that, because of course the building inception is just a small part of the entire building's life cycle.
Yeah.
So what do we need to know, or how do we need to bring facilities management and other subcontracting maintenance type trades into the BIM conversation?
Absolutely. And it's a really important conversation to have. And it's a conversation that's just opening up and just emerging. And we need to bring these facilities managers into the family, into the whānau, so we can understand the challenges that they face for a 50, 90, 100-year longevity with the buildings that we've created. Often the challenges they face 20, 30 years on are completely unforeseen when you might design or construct it. And having that insight is invaluable for the next project, or just understanding what it means to be a facilities manager and have to get the ladder in there and to get up at a really high point and move a really large complicated machine around.
So while we're talking about what happens after design and construct, we're talking about facilities and management and maintenance. There's another question coming up, which is also asking why, when we talk about BIM, we're so focused on the production, essentially, in the practice of the building. Why is there not much focus on the organisations that then use those BIM outputs down the line? Now, this person might be referring to clients, but I'm interested in who else should we be bringing up to speed on the BIM and AI journey?
That is a really good question for this forum. The NZIOB, being pan-industry, is a vehicle that can bring people together to have that holistic conversation. Often we get into the traditional silos within the industry, and the technology itself caters to a collaborative layer that is pan-industry. So if we can broaden that conversation and bring people in earlier to understand it, then we can unlock those opportunities. I've had the good fortune to work on some amazing projects with Warren and Mahoney, and there's one here in Wellington where the client brought on as a specialist asset and facilities management consultant as part of the design process to share those insights with the design team. And wow, blew my mind of what they think about once the building is handed over at the end of construction. And we're starting to assist workflows by mobilizing that information early in the process. So the key parameter and information points can be collected through the construction process and assembled in a digital platform that can be then utilized from your mobile phone when you're in the operational phase. So when you're standing in a plant room, you're kind of like, oh, I wish I had the access to the manual on this thing. You can just call it up by scanning a QR code.
So if the question was, who else do we need on this journey? And one answer could be,
Everyone.
who don't we need?
Yeah.
Who are our top priority groups that you think we're not quite getting agreement or commonality with just yet?
I think we haven't exposed our conversation holistically to sub-trades, the people actually making the stuff in the field.
And we talked about mechanical, electrical.
Yeah, plumbers. John Lane Plumbing, if you're on the call, wow, amazing what you're doing here in Wellington. Using lasers to set our plumbing pipe on construction sites directly off building information models. That's a huge advancement, and we need to share that story, and maybe it's a segue to shout out to John and get him on this call and have a plumber's perspective, because we talk a lot from a design or a main contractor perspective, but what about the plumber?
Well, I will grab that contact with you afterwards, because one of the things we want to talk about in a future industry insights, this little sneak peek, is the 4-day or the 5-day working week. And it would be good to have a plumber's perspective, because in this digital nirvana, when we have better interoperability, we make less mistakes, we reduce our rework. Surely we can spend more time with our families?
Yes, absolutely. Or
surely
maybe
we could aim for that 4-day work week?
Yeah, maybe golf day actually happens because we did 5 days work in 4. And that would be an amazing outcome from all of this. And I think we've all seen the movies. I think, I saw it with my kids. We all saw Wall-E, and we're hovering around on hover seats and stuff like that, and things are doing the work for us. It's probably a far-fetched stretch of the future, but there are engineers around the world that take these visions of the future and then they get busy working on it. And that's pretty exciting.
Because the end game here is a more productive industry, less mistakes, less disputes, and more time to do the things we love.
I think humans are just curious, and there's a big universe out there, and it's a true story. There are engineers that are working on the warp drive because we want to go explore space. So yet here we have challenges with electrical wires and cable trays.
I notice we keep getting pulled back into Star Trek references. I'm sure there's a bit more to that, but I'm just back to a couple of questions that Nathan's been asking. Thanks, Nathan. Which is about facilities maintenance and what do we need to input at the front end? What do designers need to include in the BIM models and the AI type information that will help the as-built model endure?
Very good question, because there's this idea or an emerging of we need all of this stuff right at the front so we can get it at the back. Actually, I think in practice, it's about having an understanding that we need to make the information more available and transportable in the front end. So being more collaborative with that digital information so others can dip into it and add to it and grow that information. Because one of the things I know hand on heart is when the shop drawing process starts, the digital information, particularly for building services, that might be created in the design phase is then suddenly superseded by new information and more accurate information in the construction phase.
Right.
So it's not always about getting the stuff at the end to the beginning. It's probably more about making sure that the beginning creates a framework for collaboration and accessibility to the digital information for the entire supply chain. And
is there a little tidy up step at the end to make sure that as the building matches the original model?
there is a verification process, so you don't get the rubbish in, rubbish out conundrum. But ideally, the shop drawing process is facilitated in a way where you prototype the building digitally, and then you just build to the prototype. So the shop drawings are your as-built.
Awesome. Okay, I think we have touched a little bit on this, but let's talk a little bit around the practicalities around how people can get going now. You know, what do people need to know to ask for? What questions do we need to know to ask? What should we be curious about? And how can we support? Because of course, in our linear construction process, it just takes one step to drop out, which can
And then there's a domino effect. Yes, absolutely. And I think how do we start? And you know, the future does start today. It starts by attending, say, the DigiCon conference that we had a few weeks ago, or it starts by joining one of the local BIM or digital groups that happen up and down the country. It could start by simply just reading the New Zealand BIM handbook, a wealth of knowledge from experienced pan-industry practitioners is in that document, and it is written deliberately in plain language, so it's easily transportable and the uptake from everyone. So just read that would be an amazing start, and that would unlock all of the tension around these funny acronyms that we talk about in the industry that we've invented to kind of create some significance around a moment in time when we're wanting to change away what we've always done to create some focus on the innovation of the new.
I think those are awesome ways to get started, and we'll make sure that once this webinar is loaded onto our resources in YouTube, that the show notes also have the links to the BIM and NZ regional events, to the resources obviously inside the Institute of Building, to the BIM handbooks, to the DigiCom presentations. So yes, that's the kind of ingestion of information. And then how do I turn up to my project start or any other, how do I become an advocate for the use of BIM through my project?
I think it's just about embracing that curiosity and being brave to challenge the norm. That, you know, people are tribal. You know, that's just built into us through our DNA for eons. So it does take a brave step to go and be the odd one out when your tribe might be very used to doing it a traditional way. But find your peers and colleagues that want to come on that journey with you, and just build that momentum slowly and incremental. You don't have to do the big deep dive. And in fact, I would encourage just maybe it's a toolbox talk, and you get an industry representative to come along and give a presentation. And they pull out their mobile phone and they say, hey, we could have this. And I recently was invited to a talk put on by LT McGuinness in the region. And it was about showing the sub-trades how they can access the building information model, all their drawings and their information, 13 million data points from their mobile phone. And I was most excited because I only got a couple of slides into the, you know, how to do, and then everyone, plumbers included, were on their phone and they're doing this like it was my dinner table. And I was kind of like, I don't want to tell you to get off your phone, because this is what we wanted you to do, and embrace the information. So, you know, it's really quite inspiring and humbling to see, you know, tradies embracing the digital world and feeling like they're inside the building from their mobile phone.
Right, well, let's throw a few buzzwords and brands around so that people know where to go to find things. Here at the Institute of Building, one of our national partners is Autodesk Construction Cloud. And at the Digicom conference, we have Autodesk there. They see themselves as a platform on top of which there are 4,000 or so applications, I guess, that we like.
There's an app for that.
Here you go. And what other names or brands should people be Googling and getting familiar with?
Absolutely. So absolutely, Autodesk is a major player in this digital world for construction. The other ones that are common here in New Zealand around that collaboration environment, Visto. Other ones in that kind of space for asset and facilities management might be TwinView or Darlux. There literally is an app for that. If you can think of anything, there's an app for it. And there's some really amazing people in New Zealand that are doing world first things. Something that has amused me when I've spoken at conferences is the outside world go, wow, you're amazing. You guys down there in New Zealand do such cool stuff. Yet here in New Zealand, we go, oh, I wonder what they're doing in North America. They must do really cool stuff. Actually, it's the reverse. And often I comment when I speak at offshore conferences, you know, New Zealand are the people that are brave enough and crazy enough to make boats fly. And we should just lean into that and lean into our DNA of being inventive, creative people, because that's what it means to be a Kiwi, and the rest of the world loves to lean into that.
100%. And at Digicom, we had a handful of startups like X-Frame, and we had Home AR, so augmented reality is obviously another side of things. Hey, I'm just aware that we've had some great Q&A a whole way along. We'll just head into our wrap up. Before we do, are there any summary words, thoughts, anything we haven't covered?
We've had a good conversation. Look, just lean into it, embrace it, be curious, ask questions, and first and foremost, all of us practitioners in this digital environment, we're friendly people. We want to share. Just lean into us.
Awesome. I love that. Hey, we want to also highlight the good work that digital managers are doing alongside our construction site managers, design managers, project managers, and cost managers. So make sure you nominate someone or yourself for the awards by the end of the month. And for those who are really curious about connecting on the latest information around contracting and procurement, we'll be having an update about the consultation process for NZS 3910, which is everybody's favourite contract that could be a little bit smoother and simpler. This is that complexity made simply conversation, I think. So we'll dig into that on Monday, the 22nd of May, with some familiar faces here who are representing the Institute of Building on that committee, including David Wilkie, who's the chair of that committee. So you can register for that online. So folks, our great thanks to Jason for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you next time at the Institute of Building's Industry Insights. Thanks, folks. Ka kite anō.
See you.